After spending some time imaging with the ZWO ASI585MM Air and the Apertura CarbonStar 150, I wanted to share some honest real-world experiences with this setup. This isn't a laboratory test, and I am no physicist when it comes to optics. The current availability of dedicated astronomy cameras makes it easy to jump in if you have the cash, but not everything works perfectly together. These are just my impressions from actual nights under the sky, processing the data myself, and comparing results across different telescopes. For this setup, I'm using a Skywatcher EQ6R mount. Overall, it handled the system pretty well, although balancing became more and more important as the imaging train got heavier and more demanding. The 585 Air honestly impressed me right away. For the price and sensor size, it's a very capable monochrome camera, and with the integrated guide camera, it makes it that much more friendly. My Astro-Tech 80ED has basically become my go-to test telescope for new gear. It's lightweight, simple, kind of a middle-of-the-road refractor. Being only a doublet, the stars aren't the absolute finest, but they're easy to correct in processing. And honestly, for the price, it's hard to beat. There are better telescopes, there are faster telescopes, there are prettier telescopes. But the 80ED has turned out to be an excellent real-world test platform. And with the 585, it worked really well. I captured some galaxy images of M106 and M64 that I was happy with. The stars stayed tight, the sampling felt appropriate. And the setup never felt overly demanding. That combination just felt forgiving and easy to work with. But then I moved the 585 over to the CarbonStar 150, and that's where things started to change. Honestly, I didn't expect such a dramatic difference, jumping from around 450 millimeters to roughly 570 millimeters focal length. But the smaller 2.9 micron pixels on the 585 made the increase in image scale immediately noticeable. And this, right here, became the biggest lesson of the entire experience. Theoretical resolution. On paper, this setup sounds incredible. Fast optics, monochrome sensor, tiny pixels, excellent theoretical resolution, and technically, all of that is true. But under actual skies here in Vegas, things became much more demanding than I expected. I started noticing that the system was oversampling much of the time. Tiny issues that barely mattered at shorter focal lengths suddenly became very obvious. Seeing fluctuations, wind, minor tracking issues, focus sensitivity, tilt, even slight balance problems, all of it became visible. The camera is capable of resolving more detail, but only if the sky conditions cooperate. With years of experience, I've got guiding and focusing down, but I can't control the atmosphere. Over multiple nights, I ended up throwing away a pretty significant number of subframes. Some nights were affected by wind, some by atmospheric instability, some by slight balance issues in the imaging train that was corrected with counterweights. Lately, I've started relying heavily on subframe analysis, not just removing satellite trails in aircraft, but actually grading image quality frame by frame. For this setup, it became mandatory. I started aggressively rejecting any frame with an eccentricity above 0.6 or an FWHM under roughly 3. That helped preserve sharpness and star quality, but it also reinforced how demanding this image scale really was. There were even windy nights where I eventually decided it just wasn't worth imaging anymore. Before this setup, I honestly didn't think much about seeing conditions unless I was doing planetary imaging. Now, I pay attention to it constantly. One thing that really did impress me, though, was the integrated guiding setup. Originally, I hoped to use a 1.25-inch filter wheel. The smaller sensor size of the 585 makes that seem very reasonable on paper, but physically, the guide camera ended up sitting too far outside the illuminated field. So eventually, I switched over to a 2-inch filter wheel setup instead. And honestly, that solved the problem. The downside, of course, was weight and the sometimes complex physics concept of moment arm. Once the heavier 2-inch filter wheel and accessories were added, balancing became much more difficult on the EQ6R. That image train was causing torque due to force and distance. I eventually added a 7.5-pound counterweight directly to the telescope tube, just to properly balance the system. I also had to rotate the train facing down, so I could add the counterweight. By the time everything was assembled, the payload climbed to roughly 25 pounds. The EQ6-R still handled it reasonably well, but careful balance became absolutely critical for maintaining good guiding performance. This setup absolutely came alive in narrowband imaging. NGC6888 the Crescent Nebula, was one of the first targets where I really saw what this system could do with only a couple hours integration per channel. IC5070, the Pelican Nebula, was another target that turned out extremely well. So, what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? Honestly, pixel scale and focal length matter far more than many beginners realize. The 585 is not a bad camera on the CarbonStar 150, far from it, but it creates a very high-resolution system that becomes heavily dependent on seeing conditions, guiding accuracy, mount performance, balance, and processing discipline. With the Astro-Tech 80 ED, the camera felt forgiving and consistently sharp. With the CarbonStar 150, the system became much more demanding, but also capable of incredible detail when everything finally came together. Overall, I've been genuinely impressed with the 585. For the price, it delivers excellent monochrome performance and surprisingly detailed results. I think it pairs exceptionally well with small and medium refractors, and it absolutely can work on larger instruments if expectations are realistic. But this experience taught me something important. I've actually been considering moving up to the CarbonStar 200 for quite a while now, because bigger is always better, right? And honestly, after going through the challenges of the CarbonStar 150 paired with the 585, I'm glad I waited. There were nights where this setup became extremely demanding, and I threw out hours of data. I realized just how unforgiving these high-resolution systems can become. There were even times when I seriously considered returning the 585 Air and simply going back to another 533 setup instead. Because for me, the 533 still represents something very important in astrophotography. It was forgiving and easy to work with, and consistently produces excellent data under average conditions. Honestly, my dream camera would probably be something very similar to the 533, but with integrated guiding capabilities like the 585 Air. If you're considering the 585, I'd say this: understand your local seeing conditions. Calculate your image scale carefully, and think realistically about your mount, your payload, and your sky conditions, because small pixels at longer focal lengths can expose every weakness in a system, and honestly, that became the real lesson here. Not theoretical resolution itself, but understanding the cost of chasing it, because sometimes the most enjoyable astrophotography setups are not the ones chasing the absolute highest possible resolution. Sometimes they're the setups that simply work, night after night, under real skies. And for me, that still ends up being the 533. Its larger pixels and forgiving image scale make it far easier to work with under average seeing conditions, while still producing excellent detail and very clean data. The 585 absolutely can produce incredible images when everything lines up perfectly, but no amount of skill on my end can change the sky conditions. I am moving into another new territory in imaging, and I'm not returning the 585, but I am using it when conditions allow. Now it isn't just, is it clear out, but will the wind and seeing cooperate too? I also need to be okay deleting hours of data when conditions just aren't good, because when conditions do cooperate, the results can be fantastic. I'm not quite there yet, but I'll get there. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this part of my journey.